I'm here to talk to you today about integrating direct mail into your digital marketing strategy. Just a quick word about me. I lead our customer success function here, not here, but at Lob. And my team focuses on helping marketers automate, measure, and maximize their direct mail programs. And before we get started, did I do that? Oh. 8 years at the Apple Store, not for nothing. So I'd love to, I know that as marketers, we are all very data-driven. So I'd love to start with a brief 3-question survey. So by a show of hands, how many of you have direct mail marketing programs today? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many of you are direct mail curious? Great. Okay, great. So we have some interest. And now, lastly, who has a mailbox? Do I not see 100%? Because the USPS says that they have every single address in America. So anyway, great. So let us get started. Here's our agenda for today. We're going to talk briefly about omnichannel marketing. We're going to talk about how to integrate direct mail into your digital strategy. I want to show you some examples that we are using at Lob ourselves, including some cool workflows, which will be super tiny on the screen, but will give you an idea and will be very familiar to you and how you work. And then we'll leave some time for Q&A. And I also want to say there are other members of my team here, so any questions, we've got like 3 minds on the problem to try to solve together. All right. So let's start off by talking about this brave new world of omnichannel marketing. We live in a world where we're constantly moving between digital and real life. We expect a seamless experience, whether we're standing in a store, shopping online, watching an influencer on, TikTok. By the way, I have avoided TikTok. Is everybody else on TikTok? Is it like as good as it sounds? Yeah, I got to stay off of that. It's just way too many hours I can see going away. But even if you're driving by a billboard, right, or you're looking at a catalog in the comfort of your own home, you expect a really well-curated and integrated experience. We expect every touch point with our brands to be consistent. So this means we really need to take the mailbox into consideration. Direct mail is one of the key ways that we can build that really tactile relationship between the digital experience that you create and the real world. The power of real is rising. It's really, not to overuse real, but it's meaningful to people because you can touch and engage with it. I am a irretrievable in-store browser, and I just know that I need to touch something before I really want to buy it. We believe that connection to the mailbox is one of the best ways to facilitate that connection with your online experiences and your brand. All right. So when the digital world took off, many of us probably decided to leave direct mail marketing in the past, although it's still a massive channel. So clearly not everybody has done that. It made a lot of sense for digital, right? It's very, very useful. It's really easy to measure, right? But that doesn't mean that direct mail has gone away. Like I said, it's a huge channel that still is used with great effect. And it is also now thriving with the ability to drive automation and integration with some of your other channels. And now is the time, if you're not using direct mail, to really consider direct mail, because this is a proven channel that is very powerful. And if you are using direct mail, now's the time to really look carefully at how you are using it so you can maximize it. Why is that? Response rates are high. People are more likely to respond to direct mail than to digital channels. Think about it. Most people read their mail, right? It leads to higher response rates than email because you know how easy it is to quickly dismiss an email. I mean, how many times are we swiping to just make that go away, or worse, hitting unsubscribe, right? According to Data Axle, I have to read this directly because I have no memory for statistics. According to Data Axle, a market research firm, 58% of consumers open and read promotional mailers. So already the response rates are in your favor. Pair that with an average response rate of 9% for house lists, 5% for prospect lists. That's already 3 times higher than all digital channels combined. So mail is clearly a front runner and needs to be part of your omnichannel strategy. We talked about this already a little bit. Tangible is memorable, right? Endlessly scrolling for information. Our mailboxes are not as cluttered as our digital lives, and it's really easy to get your message to stand out in somebody's mailbox. Again, finding people at home where they make their decisions, where they are surrounded by their family, their friends, their networks, the people who support their decision making, is a great place to re-engage your customers or your prospects with your brand. Even though, like, this is where I think like the power of direct mail is, and I'll just use an anecdote. I wear High Lead clothes. I'm an athlete, and High Lead is a great brand for CrossFit. It's my sport. So I buy a lot of stuff from them, like tank tops, shorts, leggings, so on and so forth, socks. And occasionally I'll leave something in the cart because, I'm waiting for a promotion. Well, I guarantee you that promotion is going to come in my mailbox within 7 days, right? And it works. Like, that piece of mail is there in a timely manner, and it causes me to go do something. It also appeals to many audiences. So direct mail is very effective with older generations who are not as digitally engaged. However, we also see that direct mail resonates very well with millennials and Gen Z. The United States Postal Service, a very important partner for LOB, shared a statistic that 84% of millennials take time to check their mail in their mailbox, and 64% of them have a preference to scanning physical mail than email. So just to recap quickly, here are some great stats. A piece of direct mail is going to stay in your home or one's home on average for 17 days. Who among us does not have a postcard from Wayfair or a letter from Macy's with the little cards on them, the tip-on card, right, that we are hanging on to for when we are ready to go shopping, right? So those brand impressions happen every single time you walk by that piece of mail, every time you open your wallet and find your card with the promo code on it or the coupon code on it. So the staying power is incredible. 52% of direct mailers are increasing their direct mail budget in the last year because it has a direct measurable impact. 27% increase in response rate of campaigns when you combine direct mail with digital channels. So again, yet an incredibly powerful channel that you can add to your existing campaigns. Okay, quick deep breath. So I've shared a lot about why. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the how. A lot has changed in the world of direct mail. For many of you, you may think of direct mail, and you may still do this today, and there's a lot of value to doing this. You're going to print hundreds of thousands of pieces of mail all at once. This takes a lot of time. You need to have all of your creative lined up. You need to secure your printer. You need to do your proofs. And then it's boom, one mailer that gets dropped. Same message, one size fits all. Well, it doesn't have to be that way anymore with automation and digital printing. So today, in this next part of the presentation, I'm going to share with you what are the steps to integrating direct mail into your omnichannel campaigns. And I'm also going to share ideas to steal. So that's your cue, that's your prompt. These are things, take it away, go home and go do it. All right, so let's start by organizing our vocabulary, right? Direct mails may seem like, I don't even know how to talk about it, right? Well, it's really easy to talk about it because it's got a vocabulary very similar to email, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with already, right? So I'm not going to read all of these things because I imagine everybody in here has been doing their own reading for a long time, but I will just call out a couple of things. With automation software, you do get a very analogous experience to email. So I'm going to say 3 things here. Choose the exact date that you want it to land in someone's hands, just like email. A/B test, different images, text, headlines, every element of a direct mailer, including form factor. Unlike email, but just like email. And then last, this is probably the one everybody cares about the most. You can track conversion rates. Say it with me. Just like email, right? So it's familiar and it's new at the same time. And the best part about being able to track those conversion rates is it means you can point to a campaign and say, this campaign response rates went up by X% because I sent that mailer. All right. At this point, I hope you're seeing the value of integrating direct mail. Yes? Nods? Maybe some questions out there still? All right. Well, if you're not convinced, listen up. So these are the steps. The first thing you want to do is build a database. And again, I'm going to read from this because this is important and I want to make sure that I get it right. Business addresses are easy to get. You can get them from services like ZoomInfo, but with more of a hybrid workforce and probably many of your buyers and decision makers being at home addresses take a little bit of like grit and imagination to get. So I'll just share what we do. Our marketing team has added you can see it here on the screen, a button on the bottom of all of our nurture campaigns that says, want to see lob in action. And that call to action drives them to a form where we can collect their home email address, their home mail address, and then we send them a postcard and it's personalized for them. So that's step number one. Step number two, this is going to be familiar to you. Whoops, here we go. Is to build out your buyer journeys. And there is no shortcutting this. This takes research. You're probably already doing this research, right? So get more out of that investment in that research with direct mail. Third Love is an online, this is a case study here, an online retailer that sells intimate apparel. They launched a direct mail campaign to re-engage their unsubscribed email list. They had a hypothesis that even though a customer unsubscribed, they still wanted to get promotions and other offers from the brand, and they just didn't want to get them an email. They tested this hypothesis, and it was right. They told us their direct mail campaign resulted in higher response rates than email, and I just thought it was a great example because this is just one way that direct mail really helps mitigate the risks where it gets harder to do email. The idea to steal here, there's your cue. Use direct mail marketing to keep unemailable leads from going stale. Also, I would note too, existing customers who have unsubscribed. All right, here's another one. Personalize and customize. How many of you customize and personalize your email? Great, I see some hands. With direct mail, with automation, you can do the same thing with direct mail, right? You don't have to have that one size fits all. So ThreadUp, another example. Does anybody know ThreadUp? Poshmark, RealReal? Yeah, okay, great. Also a big purchaser of those services. They wanted to encourage their buyers, their past buyers, to buy more. So they researched, which they have all this data. It's easy, right? They know exactly what their customers bought. I did not do it that time, I swear. I did not kick the cable. That's okay. I'll keep talking. So that's all right. The ThreadUp used their customers' past purchases to compile a set of images for each customer that looked like purchases they made before. I mean, we do this online, right? Like I get tons of suggestions of things that I might want to try because of something I've purchased in the past. So we're going to show this again, but apparently someone really liked yellow because that's the example that we have for ThreadUp. This approach really worked. They were able to repeat their purchases, increase their repeat purchases by 20%, simply by sending a personalized mailer to customers who had not been buying. The idea to steal here, absolutely worth it to take the time to understand your customers deeply, which I imagine you're already doing. So why not take advantage of that and double down in yet another channel? All right, step number 4. Did you know that direct mail can be trackable? It can be trackable. So use the ways to track your customer behavior in direct mail. Just like you would use a UTM parameter in an email, you can use a QR code, a personalized URL. We use both of those, because that way we know exactly who's landing on our landing page, even if we don't know, even if they haven't completed the journey. Other things that I've seen customer use that I think are really cool are they use different channels, right? So they use direct mail to redirect their customers to another sales channel. So they, one of them knows that their best converting channel is their call center. So they redirect customers back to their call center, because they know if a customer calls in, they're much more likely to complete the purchase when talking to a live rep than completing a purchase online. So knowing your business is really important. Okay, so now you've built your list, you know your customer, you've personalized accordingly, and you know how you're going to track. It's time to align to your KPIs, and here are just a few. These are great suggestions. My favorite ones are cost per acquisition, return on investment, and I think we don't have lifetime value on here, but that is another one. So if you're thinking about a cross-sell opportunity with a customer, if you know your direct mail converts that customer to yet another product or repeat purchase, then your lifetime value of that customer obviously goes up. So once you have all of these pieces, your list, your customer, your personalization, your metrics, your KPI rubric, then it's time to think about where you're going to integrate direct mail into perhaps an existing campaign. Then we recommend testing. Just test. Test, 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 measure, and optimize, just like you would do in any other digital channel. So like the theme here, I hope you're picking up, is that mail can be like any other digital channel when you use automation tools. One of the, I'm not going to read all of these to you, and I'm sure we can provide you a list if you want to hear more about this later. I want to give you an example. Our leader of our solutions team developed a testing framework for one of our customers that yielded 125 variations just by testing 5 different headlines, 5 different subheaders, and 5 different background images. Back of the postcard is a control. This leaves out all the other testing that you can do, my favorite of which is form factors. So different customers respond differently to different form factors, and there's a lot of innovation that you can do there. One other thing I want to call out is some really cool stuff on CTA. So one of our customers has enough first-party data, they have a lot, to know what channel their existing customers are likely to make a purchase in. Is it a store, is it online, or is it through the app or through a call center? And they have enough data to be able to marry that to their campaigns and then customize, personalize which CTA they're going to put on their mailers, right? And the one I love is that they have a Maps integration. So they show you the store on, irretrievable browser right here. They show you the store that is closest to your mailing address. So you can go directly to the store to complete your purchase. All right, all of this stuff, how does it happen? With an automation platform, right? So if you use a product like Lob, you are able to see where your mailers are, and you are able to leverage the mailing data to develop a data-informed approach to how you time your future mailings, how you test, how you iterate, and how you continue to maximize your ROI. And you manage your workflow really, really well. So with that, let's see if there's anything left on how you can do this. Oops. I wanted to show you our marketing tech stack. I did not believe this when I saw this. This was put together by our VP of Demand Generation, Julie Ginn, who is the ideator of the example I'm about to show you in a moment. But this is an example of a tech stack. It's ours, right? And as she says, we eat our own dog food. We use about 40 different tools for omnichannel marketing, and we've integrated Lob into our marketing tech stack. So with Marketo and Salesforce, works really well because we like to trigger mail, right? So having all of this automation in our workflow allows us to trigger mailers to customers and prospects based on the actions they take on our website. So for those of you who have similar robust tech stacks, you can add a direct mail automation tool directly to that tech stack and add another very powerful tool to your kit. And you don't have to do that if you can't. So you can also use Lob as a standalone tool. Resources are tight, we get that, so we make it really easy for you to start benefiting from direct mail, whether you do it in an integrated way or whether you do it in a semi-integrated way, as long as you're thinking about, you know, how you manage it into your strategy. Okay, how am I doing on time? I'm going to go quickly through our examples so we leave some time for questions. I'm going to show you the one that I mentioned Julie put together, which I love as a child of the 80s. So we developed this Change the Channel to Lob campaign. And the concept is that in the 80s, there were a lot of great things, not the least of which was my very big hair, I must say. But for direct mail, it was not so fabulous. So now it's time to step into the future with Lob. I love how creative this campaign is, and Julie just went huge. She just went really, really big. So she built an entire ecosystem of touch points in the campaign, including on the digital side where we have personalized URLs, emails, and LinkedIn ads, because that's where the prospects we want to target are spending their time. Then in real life, right, getting back to that like real life, online, offline touch point and connection, we are sending a customized postcard as well as a Rubik's Cube with a handwritten note driving folks back to our Change the Challenge microsite. So it's this very circular ecosystem that you can enter into at any point and continue to go through. Now, remember I talked about all the ways to build a direct mail into your omnichannel strategies. I'm going to show you some pages that have like a lot of little text on them, so you won't be able to read them, but I just want to give you a sense of us doing exactly the kind of work that you do so that you can see how we do it. So this is how we started. Like we had strategy, ideation, we built a roadmap, we had approvals, you know, iterate, run your campaign, test, have a launch, have your metrics, and optimize, right? So this is probably, does this look familiar to you all? Do you do something like this? Okay, great. So you wouldn't change that. Again, adding something new doesn't necessarily mean change. It actually might just mean getting more out of what you're already doing. Here's another example of how we're looking at the workflows. So we are looking at how we go from the ad itself to our emails to connecting with our AEs and our BDRs, right? So again, this should be familiar to y'all, right? Cool. And with that, I'm just going to summarize real quickly and leave some room for questions. So as we move more toward a digital world, real connections matter most. Whoops. Integrating mail into your digital strategy improves your outcomes. You can test, optimize, and track, just like your other digital channels. And technology is the unlock to your success. And with that, what kind of questions do y'all have? I studied up. Lay it on me.
Thanks, Jane. Is that off? Yes. Oh, did you have a question? You go first.
Yeah. I wanted to come back early on when you were talking about, and my question is, how does augmented reality play into this? You were saying you were a touchy-feely kind of guy. I'm the same way. But with augmented reality, we don't need to be in the store and do the touchy-feely. Your thoughts about that?
So I think that's a great question. One I did not prepare for, so I'm going to do the best I can. So if you're going to have some kind of AR experience, we also hear customers starting to experiment with their voice-activated speakers like Alexa and Hey Google, right? You can include a call to action on your mailer that delivers the experience, right? So if it's downloading an app, you have a QR code that takes you to the App Store, right, to download the app. And then you engage in your the experience that you want there. So that's how I think we would start exploring with incorporating AR experiences. So remember, the mail piece itself is fantastic because its features are unique and that it's physical, it's two-dimensional. You actually have to look at it. Like, and you're probably doing that as you're doing something that's like as involuntary as walking. And then you use the mail piece to drive your customer back to another experience.
Great question. I've got a bunch of questions. Does anyone else want to jump in? I will ask a few. It might spark a few from others as well. The reason I've got a bunch is because we've been looking at direct mail. So this is
Okay,
really
great.
timely. So first one, are there any specific verticals that are trending stronger? Any verticals specifically that where direct mail is really increasing that people in this room really should get on?
Yeah, so I think about what comes in your mailbox. Like, and I don't know if it's the same, and you're based in Sydney, right?
No, we're in Texas.
Oh, you're in Texas. Okay,
Yeah.
Great. So you get a mail from the USPS. I don't know about you guys, but I get offers constantly from financial services companies. So financial services is a vertical that has been using mail in many, many forms, from the complex to the very simple, for eons and incredibly effectively. Retail, real estate, those are among like some of the top verticals we see. And we also see a lot of healthcare and insurance, because we also support transactional mail that is more compliance driven. It's definitely not as sexy as the marketing mail use cases.
Excellent. Just on that same topic, are there any specific age groups or any regions in the States that are trending, like that are, you guys should get on this now sort of thing? Or is it just
Well, I
pretty
would
national?
say nationwide. So, the benefit of working with a partner like the United States Postal Service is they have access to every single mailbox in the United States. So there is no barrier to entry. The only barriers to entry are the ones that you prescribe for yourself: budget, targeting, so on and so forth. And we can try to find some statistics for you that I don't have off the top of my head, but each generation interacts with direct mail. And there's an Experian article that I can find for you, which talks a lot about how Gen Z has higher trust and more willingness to interact with brands that interact with them through direct mail. But I mean, how many of you can walk by your mailbox and not check it? I don't know. For me, it's like a compulsion. Like, I have to go check my mail. I cannot walk by it without checking it. So it's not easy to avoid, no matter what age group you are.
Excellent. Next question is around prospects versus customers. You talked a bit about conversions and measuring. Do you have any stats, or do you know of the differences between using direct mail for prospects as opposed to using it for actual customers?
So that's a really good question. And this is the kind of question that I would kind of answer with a question like, what do you know about how your customers and your prospects behave, right? So I'm sure we can find some statistics that give you a broad brush, but I would not, how averages can be deceiving, right? I would not use someone else's statistics or even industry-wide statistics to be the benchmarks for your specific business. You probably have access to rich first-party data, and you can get access to augment that with third-party data that will give you a better outcome than referencing benchmarks. So testing into your own benchmarks is the way we recommend going.
So if you would already have your own email benchmarks, for example, that customers return or respond or convert at 3 times more than prospects, whatever the number is.
Right.
What you're saying is that would be a more trustworthy number
for you than for some other, random or generic benchmark, right? And so that's actually a great place to start. So you have a hypothesis. I hypothesize that I can increase my conversion from prospects by, 7% or 3% or 2%, like whatever your goal is by adding direct mail. And then you figure out what is a statistically significant sample, and you run a test and see if it happens, right? And then you run more tests to continue to optimize.
Got you. I feel like I'm hogging the mic. Yes, thanks, Aaron. Your face there.
Thank you. I loved your comment about using direct mail to target your unsubscribers in a different way. So 2 questions. One is, I just hadn't thought about this. There is no unsubscribe list from direct mail. So interesting.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't, not to my knowledge.
And it would be like way heavier of a lift than clicking unsubscribe.
Talk about
I'm
a
sure.
friction-filled experience.
Yeah. And then the other one I was gonna ask is there a recommended cadence for direct mail in terms of average frequency or how often a year? I'm sure it depends on the industry, but just in general.
So that's another one of those questions that I'll respond to with, it really depends on your product and your customer base and your budget, right? And what other touch points you have in your omnichannel outreach, right? So I would be hard pressed to recommend a specific cadence. I mean, like I'm in the direct mail business, so I'm saying all the time, you know, as much as you want. But I think realistically, again, testing into that experience is the best way to find out what is best for you, what is most optimal. Hi.
Hi. Within Lob, do you have a lot of, I work for food brands. I mean, do you have a lot of food brands engaging with direct mail?
So that's a good, do we have a lot of food brands? I can think of one. We don't have permission to use their logo, I don't think, but they're a food preparation meal delivery service, and they use direct mail in a really interesting way. They have to order their inventory. So like they prepare foods in regional areas, right? And they can send them out locally as a perishable item, but they need to stock up their inventory ahead of their orders. And this is like a great anecdote about why direct mail works. If their orders are going to exhaust the inventory, they pull a direct mail drop. And so automation enables them to pull that drop at a moment's notice, to target it to the distribution radius of the prep facility that has perishable inventory that is going to go bad, right? And they use up that inventory when they do a direct mail drop.
Okay. And then my second question is, are you currently working beyond residential, like retailers? Because we also have a B2B company that I work for.
That's a good question. We do have B2B use cases. So why don't we talk offline about what you're looking to do, and we'll find the right reference points for you.
Thanks.
Hi. Early on, you mentioned you start with a database. So you have your database. How do you hone in on the particular, what mechanisms do you use? Do you have specific tools to select who you're going to target from that database, and how does that work?
So that actually, how do you do it today? Like, how do you figure out how you're going to build your audience for a campaign, right? So presumably, I don't know, let's use this example of the food preparation company. They know they have a need to exhaust some inventory in Chicago, right? And they're going to look at their database of prospects and previous purchasers, as well as maybe some data that they buy, to find, people who are in that location first. That would be the first cut they do, right? Obviously, repeat customers are a higher value target because they know the brand and they can be incentivized well to make another purchase. And then for third-party lists, maybe they're looking at some attribute, like somebody who has bought from a food subscription service before, one of their competitors even, right? So these are just some of the kind of attributes that you can use to build your list.
I've got one last question, which is to yourself, and I might even throw it to the room, just if we can get some answers. But who owns direct mail strategy? Is it marketing? Is it sales? If we're talking about, prospecting, is it customer success? Like who actually owns it? What's your thoughts on best practice? And for the people doing direct mail in the room, I'm curious.
So we see it generally owned by marketing.
Yep.
Because it's part of the omni-channel experience, or it could be a standalone strategy. So primarily owned by marketing. However, like all other successful campaigns, you take inputs from, your sales team, like what's working, what are you hearing, right? Like, what are you hearing about pricing? Like, what are you hearing about objections, right? What are you hearing about concerns that need to be met? Customer success is another great source for like anecdotal feedback. And if you have a big enough database, you can start to model data off of your first party data. Like your first party data is a like tremendous asset, like use it, for everything.
Excellent. Is it just marketing teams that are owning direct mail? No other? No, yep. Okay, cool. Not such a good question. Okay. All righty. Thank you so much, Nicole. That was great.
You're welcome. So before I go, one last thing. I did work at Apple, so I do my Steve Jobs. Who here is now more interested in direct mail than they were before? Great. Thank you very, very much, and enjoy the rest of the conference.